My boyfriend wasn't my plus one to a wedding, so he accused me of cheating and tried to physically stop me from leaving. His true colors finally exploded. Plus one update. I am a 25-year-old female, and I have been seeing my now boyfriend, a 27-year-old male who we'll call Joe, for about 6 months. We made it official 3 months into dating, so he's officially been my boyfriend for 3 months. My best friend, who we'll call Anne, is getting married next month. I'm one of her bridesmaids. It's a small destination wedding in France with only about 40 close friends and family. The bridal party is set to arrive about 4 days before the actual wedding to do bachelor and bachelorette stuff. The wedding was planned months before Joe and I even met. I accepted the invitation long before we were together, and he was aware of the wedding since we first started seeing each other because I had just gone dress shopping. The issue came up yesterday morning when my boyfriend started asking what time my flight was for the wedding week. I didn't think much of it and told him. He came back about 10 minutes later and said he'd have to go on a different flight because he couldn't find one on the same airline or at the same time. I was confused why he was looking at flights, so I asked him if he was planning on going on a solo trip while I was gone. He looked confused and said he was looking for flights for the wedding. I then proceeded to tell him, trying to be as gentle as possible, that I wasn't given a plus one and the guest list was already finalized. He has only ever met Anne over FaceTime since she lives in a different state from us. After I told him, he exploded at me. Honestly, it was a complete 180 from his usual behavior. He said it was insensitive of me to not ask for a plus one because we'd been together for so long. He claimed I was purposefully excluding him and trying to keep him a secret. He ranted and talked in a circle, and I just sat there in shock. For the record, Joe is not a secret. He has met my other friends. He just hasn't met Anne in person because she lives across the country. They've only met through FaceTime. I've met his parents and his friends, and he has met my parents over FaceTime since they live in Mexico. What snapped me out of the daze was when he insinuated that I would likely cheat with one of the groomsmen. That's when I got up, grabbed my things, and started walking out of his place. He freaked out even more and said we needed to talk about this and that I couldn't just walk out on him. He tried to grab me twice, but I shoved him off. Since last night, I haven't spoken to him. He's been blowing up my phone with calls and texts that I haven't replied to. I even put him on Do Not Disturb because it was so annoying. I texted him that I needed some space to breathe, but he just kept calling and texting anyway. I was pretty solid in believing I wasn't the asshole, but one of his best friends got my number and texted me that I was being petty and a female dog about everything. He said I led Joe on for 6 months by making him believe he was invited. I haven't talked to anyone about this because I wanted to cool down first, but now that his friend is texting me, I feel like I handled it all poorly. So, I've come here to get some unbiased opinions. Am I the asshole for not having my boyfriend be a plus one to my best friend's wedding? Update. The general consensus was that I was not the asshole. Some people commented that I shouldn't have just walked out, but I want to be clear, you should never let someone scream at you and just sit there and take it. I'm realizing now that his behavior was emotional abuse. When the wedding planning was starting, Joe and I had not met. By the time we made things official, the planning was finalized. It's a heavily pre-planned destination wedding, as my friend Anne is originally from France. I never hid the wedding from Joe or the fact that it was very small. Someone said most normal people plan on bringing their significant other to a wedding, and maybe that's true. But you should never automatically assume that just because your partner is invited to something, you'll be going too. I talked to Anne about this shortly after posting, and she agreed that I'm not the asshole. She said if the roles were reversed, she'd never expect her partner of less than a year to be invited to an important event. So, on Friday, I texted Joe asking to meet up Saturday morning to have a discussion. This morning, he tried to get us to meet at my place, but instead, I got him to agree to meet at a local cafe. A lot of you pointed out how he tried to grab me and that it's a big sign he could get more physical in the future. I didn't want to leave anything to chance. He got there early and tried to hug me, which I didn't allow. I got the ick at the thought of him hugging me. We did a bit of small talk, but got right to the point once we sat down. He did apologize for blowing up, but in the same breath, he said I shouldn't have left. I countered that he shouldn't have tried to physically stop me from leaving twice. He asked, what else was I supposed to do? That set the tone for the whole conversation. He went on to say that me just walking away was a clear indication that I didn't respect him. I then pointed out that he wasn't letting me explain why he wasn't invited in the first place. This is when we started talking in circles. I told him how the wedding was planned long before we met. How by the time we were exclusive, they had everything finalized, especially the guest list. He said I should have asked Anne to change it anyway. I asked him if I ever gave him the impression he'd be attending. He was silent for a while and then admitted he just assumed that, since he was now my boyfriend, I would have told Anne to invite him. I then asked, well, wouldn't I have said something if you were invited in the past 3 months? I realized that we weren't getting anywhere, so I told him I wanted to break up. I said something like, I understand you were hurt that I didn't invite you. I am sorry that we didn't have a clearer conversation. However, I don't feel safe in this relationship because of how you reacted. I don't think this is good for either of us if you feel betrayed, and I feel unsafe. He didn't take that well. Joe's response was that if we broke up, I wasn't getting my stuff back. I told him I didn't care. Because honestly, if he wants to keep some of my underwear and a used toothbrush, okay. I then asked him to not have his friends text me. He went from pleading for another chance to accusing me of never wanting him. I just stood up, told him I wished him the best, and left. When I got home, I went for a 2-hour run because I was still so stressed. I blocked his number, his friends, and his Instagram, and deleted the pictures of us on my feed. I changed my Facebook status to single, had a good cry, and have been watching Netflix since. Something I learned from this is that your first fight with your partner tells you everything about them. Our first fight told me Joe was explosive. Maybe if he hadn't blown up, we would still be together. But I'm not going to dwell on it. I know it's good I got out while I could because, as many of you pointed out, the fact he kept trying to overpower me says a lot. I'm honestly glad I broke it off. As some of you said, it took him 6 months to show his true colors. I can't imagine if he had come to the wedding, and then a year later, I find out he's like this and have to look at wedding photos with a guy who is fine with blowing up. I'm going to stay single for a while now. I have a wedding to look forward to. My focus is on supporting Anne and making sure she has the best wedding ever. My roommate and I are also getting a Ring camera for some extra security, just in case. Thank you again to everyone for your opinions.